Hello. If you found this recording because of the title, I understand why. Most people hear the word border and think about politics, or crime, or heat. Not patterns, not sound, not rules that only exist because something learned how we respond. Before I begin, I need to ask something simple. If you listen all the way through, leave a comment. Let me know you heard it. Not because I want attention, because for years this stayed buried inside paperwork and internal reports that never left the sector. What I am about to tell you was not classified. It was ignored. This is my statement. My name is Miguel Alvarez. I am a United States Border Patrol agent assigned to the Laredo sector in Texas. I have been in service for 14 years. I patrol primarily along the Rio Grande corridor west of the city limits, including ranch land, brush country, and stretches of riverbank that do not show up clearly on civilian maps. When I started in 2011, the rules were practical. Hydrate. Do not pursue into blind ravines without air support. Do not separate more than 300 yards at night. Always confirm backup visually before disengaging from a suspect. Those rules were written in blood, but human blood. That changed in 2019. Agent Raul Herrera died that year. March 3rd, north of Laredo near mile marker 57 along Farm to Market Road 1472. Official cause was vehicle rollover during pursuit. The report said he overcorrected responding to an emergency siren. The siren belonged to Unit 17. Unit 17 was parked at the station with its engine off. I was on shift that night. I heard the siren too. You need to understand the environment before you understand what happened. Laredo is dry most of the year. Mesquite and scrub. Low visibility brush. The river bends and doubles back. At night the land absorbs sound. It carries strangely. You can hear a coyote 2 miles out and miss a truck 50 yards behind you. We operate in teams, 2 to 3 units per zone. Each vehicle has a distinct siren pattern. Not intentional, but mechanical. Slight differences in pitch. Slight timing drift depending on maintenance and model year. After enough time you learn them. You do not think about it. You just know. On March 3rd I was riding with Agent Luis Ramirez in Unit 23. It was just after midnight. We were posted near a ranch gate that had been cut earlier that week. Thermal showed movement across the river. Possible crossing. Nothing unusual. Then we heard Unit 17's pursuit siren. Full cycle. Wail into yelp. Standard escalation. Close. Maybe half a mile west. Luis looked at me. "That's 17, he said. I nodded. He's early shift. Why is he out here? Radio stayed quiet. No call out. No pursuit announcement. That was the first rule violation. Rule 1. No emergency activation without radio confirmation. Luis keyed the mic. 17. Confirm pursuit. Silence. Then the siren changed cadence. Not malfunction. Not distortion. It repeated the exact escalation pattern Herrera always used. He had a habit of double tapping the siren toggle. It produced a clipped yelp before full wail. We joked about it. We heard the double tap. Luis whispered, "That's him." Radio cracked. Dispatch came through. All units. Be advised 17 is 10-7 at station. Repeat, 17 is 10-7. 10-7 means out of service. Parked. The siren cut off. We sat there for maybe 5 seconds. No wind, no brush movement, just the river. Luis said, "Someone boosted a unit?" I shook my head. You cannot move 17 without the yard gate. And we would see lights. We did not pursue the sound. That was the second rule, though it was not written yet. Do not chase unverified sirens. Herrera did. He was alone that night, responding from the south perimeter. He heard what we heard, only closer. According to his dashcam, he activated lights and siren, and accelerated westbound. The audio recording captured a second siren overlapping his. Identical pattern. Slight delay, like an echo that did not match terrain. He reported over radio, "I have visual on 17 ahead of me." Dispatch replied, "Negative." "You are 17. His breathing changed. You can hear it on the recording. He says, "Then who is that?" There is no impact noise on the dash cam. No collision. Just the sound of the engine revving higher than policy allows. Then, static. They found his vehicle upside down in a dry wash. No skid marks. No evidence of obstruction. His body was 15 yards from the cab. After the funeral, after the report was filed, we were given an unofficial directive during muster. It was not written. It was spoken. Supervisor Delgado said, "From now on, if you hear a siren and you do not have radio confirmation and visual confirmation within 30 seconds, you do not pursue. You hold position." Someone asked why. He did not answer directly. He said because we are not the only ones listening. That was the beginning of the containment framework. The incidents did not stop. They became patterned. Always during dispersed patrol. Always when units were separated by terrain. Always using authentic cadence. Never random. Never distorted. It never initiated first. It waited. That was the limitation we identified by accident. It could not generate a siren pattern unless one of ours had been activated within range earlier that shift. It replicated. It did not create. We tested that unintentionally during a quiet week in June. Administration ordered reduced emergency activation after media pressure about Herrera's death. For 5 nights, no unit used sirens unless absolutely necessary. No mimic events occurred. On the 6th night, a smuggling vehicle ran a checkpoint, and Unit 12 engaged siren for 11 seconds before terminating pursuit due to policy. 40 minutes later, west perimeter, I heard the same 11-second pattern replayed from the brush. Exact duration. Exact termination point. It was not an echo. There were no lights. Luis was not with me that time. He had transferred sectors. I was riding with Agent Erica Salazar. 8 years in service. Calm. Good instincts. She looked at me and said, "We do not move." I agreed. But the sound was closer than before. Maybe 200 yards. Stationary. Not moving. Like it wanted response. Radio remained clear. No unit reported emergency. Erica whispered, "It is baiting." That word changed everything. Because bait implies intention. Later that summer, we formalized 3 field rules. Not official policy. Field rules. Passed verbally. Rule 1. No siren response without dispatch confirmation and visual contact. Rule 2. If duplicate patterns are heard, all units go dark. No lights. No sirens. No movement for 30 seconds. Rule 3. Never pursue a unit that you cannot see even if you hear your own name over radio. Rule 3 came after August. August was when it learned names. I was at home when the first personal breach happened. My wife Sophia had just put our daughter Elena to bed. She was 6. I was off shift, but on call. Around 11:30, my personal cell phone rang. The caller ID displayed Luis Ramirez. He had transferred to Tucson months earlier. I answered. "Luis?" All I heard was the patrol siren, faint. Then his voice. "Miguel, I need you to roll west. I see your unit." I froze. He used my first name, not standard radio protocol. "Sophia," I said quietly, "go check the driveway." She looked confused but did it. Our personal vehicle was parked. No lights, no siren. The phone audio shifted. The siren escalated into full pursuit cadence. Then, it cut. Call ended. Luis texted me 15 minutes later from Arizona asking why I had called him. I had not. The next week dispatch received a call from a rancher reporting a border patrol unit circling his property at 2 in the morning with sirens active but no headlights. When he approached, it drove into the brush without leaving tire tracks. Administration began suggesting equipment malfunction. They replaced 2 siren modules. They audited radio encryption. They brought in technicians. No fault found. Then came the high-impact event in October. 3 units were tracking a group moving north along the river. I was in Unit 23 again. Erica in Unit 12. Agent Carlos Mendez in Unit 8. Night visibility was low. Fog rising from the water. We coordinated over radio. Slow approach. No sirens. Standard containment. Suddenly Unit 8's siren activated. Full volume. No radio call. Carlos shouted over the channel. "That is not me." We could hear his engine idle steady. No rev increase. But the siren was coming from his direction. Closer than terrain should allow. Dispatch said, 8, confirm status. "I am stationary," he replied. Engine on. Lights off. The siren moved behind me. Perfect Doppler shift. Passing at speed. I saw nothing. Erica said, "Hold. Hold." Then over open channel, in Carlos's voice, came a single sentence. "Miguel, follow me. That was the first time it used my name on official radio. Not cell, not private line, main channel." My hands tightened on the wheel. Because I believed it for half a second. That was enough. I shifted into drive. Began to roll. Erica shouted, "Do not move." Rule 3. Never pursue a unit you cannot see even if you hear your own name. I stopped. Carlos said, "I did not say that." The siren accelerated away. Toward the river. Then, silence. We found nothing. No tracks. No group. No evidence anyone crossed. 2 weeks later, Carlos violated Rule 1. He was first responder to a distress call from a local deputy reporting shots fired near the old rail bridge. The deputy's cruiser had activated siren before radioing in. We heard it across zone. Real siren. Confirmed. Then a second siren layered over it. Identical. Carlos was closest. He accelerated before dispatch completed confirmation. He believed the deputy was in immediate danger. That is duty. That is what we are trained to do. Dashcam shows him turning onto a dirt access road. Siren ahead. Flashing red reflecting off trees. Then nothing visible. He continues anyway, because the siren is pulling him forward. His last transmission was calm. "I have visual on cruiser." Dispatch replied, negative. Deputy reports he is stationary east side. "You are west," Carlos said. "Then what is in front of me?" Vehicle rolled into the river embankment. He drowned before extraction. The deputy was unharmed on the opposite bank. His siren had been deactivated 3 minutes prior. After Carlos's death, the rules became stricter. We reduced emergency usage further. We limited solo patrols. We began logging every siren activation duration to the second. It adapted. Instead of replicating full patterns, it began replaying fragments. 3-second bursts. The clip double tap. A half wail. Enough to trigger instinct without triggering dispatch alert. We installed external microphones on 2 units to triangulate source. During one event, the audio analysis showed spatial impossibility. The sound originated simultaneously north and south of the same vehicle. That was when Supervisor Delgado admitted something he should not have. He said, "This is not new." He told us there were similar reports in Arizona in the 1980s, in California during the early 2000s. Always border regions. Always siren replication. Always during low visibility conditions. He said, "It tests response. It separates you. That is its function." We asked what it was. He said, "I do not know. But it cannot cross paved federal roads." That was the only consistent limitation. Every mimic event occurred off asphalt. Dirt, gravel, riverbank. It would approach the edge of highway and stop. The sound would distort if it tried to cross. Like interference. So we adapted. If mimic triggered, nearest unit retreated to pavement. Hold. Wait. 30 seconds minimum. For a while, incidents decreased. That was the false stabilization. We thought containment was working. We wrote internal guidance. We believed the limitation was absolute. Then in January of 2021, my daughter Elena asked me why there were sirens outside her school during recess. There were no units dispatched there that day. I checked duty logs. No activation within 5 miles of her campus. She said the sound came from the tree line beyond the playground fence. It played the same pattern twice, then stopped when teachers looked toward it. Schools sit on asphalt, concrete, but playground edges touch dirt. That night I sat in my driveway and listened. No wind, no traffic, just distant highway hum. Then, faint, from beyond the subdivision fence where construction meets undeveloped land, I heard the clipped double tap, followed by silence. It had learned proximity to home. I did not report that, not officially. That was my first concealment, because reporting it would trigger internal evaluation, and evaluation would remove me from field, and I believed I needed to stay, to understand it, to delay it. Sophia asked me what was wrong. I told her, just overtime. That was a lie. The erosion is not loud at first. It is procedural. You adjust routes. You avoid activating siren unless life is certain. You second-guess every sound. You begin to wonder whether your response is the variable it wants, because that is what I have learned after 14 years in uniform. It does not attack randomly. It waits for us to declare authority. Then it answers. False stabilization lasted 3 months. From February through April of 2021, no confirmed mimic events were logged in the Laredo sector. No duplicate sirens. No unauthorized fragments. No name usage over radio. Administration credited procedural compliance. Reduced activations. Pavement fallback. 30-second hold. They circulated a memo praising discipline. We knew better. When something intelligent goes quiet, it is not compliance. It is recalibration. I stayed on night rotation by request. Officially, I cited experience. Unofficially, I did not trust anyone else to interpret what we were hearing. That sounds arrogant. It is not. It is fear disguised as competence. My partner during that period was Agent Erica Salazar. We worked well together because she followed rules without dramatizing them. She did not speculate. She observed. Late March, 2:15 in the morning. We were staged near a drainage culvert west of town. Asphalt frontage road to our east. Open brush and caliche trails to our west. Thermal showed nothing. Air was still. Erica said, "You feel that?" I said, "Feel what?" Too quiet. Silence is not unusual in the brush. But this was structured silence. No insects. No distant traffic bleed. Even the river seemed muted. Then dispatch transmitted a routine check. All unit status. We responded. Unit 23. Code 4. 3 seconds later, our own siren chirped. One clipped double tap. From directly behind our vehicle. We both flinched. Engine was off. Light bar dark. Erica whispered, "Do not move." Rule 2. Duplicate pattern. All units go dark. No movement for 30 seconds. We were already dark. We stayed that way. 30 seconds passed. Nothing followed. No full cycle. No escalation. Just that single fragment. Erica said, "It is testing fragment response." I nodded, trying to see if partial activation triggers pursuit. We logged it. Reported it. No escalation. That was the low action pressure scene for that month. No crash. No chase. Just waiting inside a sealed vehicle while something confirmed we still reacted. In April, a new agent rotated into our zone. Agent Victor Rios, 4 years in service. Transferred from El Paso. Strong. Confident. Recently divorced. Trying to rebuild hours and reputation. During briefing, Delgado emphasized siren protocols again. Victor listened, but you could see skepticism. He had not buried anyone yet. He said, "With respect, sir, sirens are mechanical. If someone is boosting signal, or hacking frequency, we track it." Delgado replied, "You will follow field rules." Victor looked at me afterward. "You really think something is out there copying tones?" I answered carefully. "I think response is what it wants." He laughed lightly. "That is not an answer." I did not elaborate. The second high-impact event of that year began with compassion. It always does. May 7th. Severe thunderstorms rolled through Webb County. Flash flood warnings. River rose 6 feet in under an hour. We had reports of migrants stranded near a low crossing. Life threat. Dispatch cleared emergency activation if necessary. This was one of the few circumstances where siren use was unavoidable. Public safety. Road closures. Evacuations. I was staged on pavement near the highway overpass. Erica and Victor were west in brush territory coordinating with county deputies. Deputy Hernandez radioed that he had visual on 2 individuals trapped on a shallow island mid-river. Water rising. He activated siren to clear a ranch access road. Confirmed over radio. Legitimate. 30 seconds later, a second siren layered over his. Identical cadence. But slightly delayed. Victor transmitted immediately. "I hear it," Erica said. "Hold position." Deputy Hernandez sounded panicked. "I have unit approaching from west." Lights on. I did not request backup. I checked GPS. No Border Patrol unit west of him. Victor was north. Erica south. Over open channel came Hernandez's own voice. "Victor, swing wide. Come in behind me." Victor answered, "Copy." Erica snapped, "Negative. That is not Hernandez." Victor hesitated. That hesitation matters, because duty conflicts with rules when lives are visible. Through radio you could hear rushing water, real people shouting. The deputy said again, "I need that flank." The duplicate siren grew louder, closer to Hernandez's coordinates. Victor said, "If that is him and we do nothing." Erica replied, "If that is not him and you move, you are gone." That was rule versus rule. Duty to rescue versus protocol containment. I broke in. "Victor, confirm visual before movement." Silence. Then engine revving. He moved. His dashcam later showed floodwater across the dirt access road. Visibility low, rain streaking lens. Ahead through trees. Flashing red lights reflecting off water's surface. It looked real. Too real. He accelerated. Because he believed a deputy and 2 civilians were about to drown. Erica followed at distance despite rule separation limit. She did not activate siren, she stayed dark. That was her decision conflict. Maintain protocol or protect partner. She chose partner. Victor's last transmission was controlled. "I see the cruiser. Approaching from west." Deputy Hernandez shouted over him, "I am East Bank. No unit west." I repeat, no unit west. On Victor's camera, the red reflections blinked twice, then extinguished. His vehicle did not crash. It simply kept moving forward into what should have been road. There was no road. Floodwater had cut a channel deeper than it appeared. The truck nose dipped and was swallowed. Erica reached the edge seconds later. She did not enter. She reversed. She called rescue. They pulled Victor out downstream. He was alive when extracted. Hypothermic. Concussed. He survived physically. Psychologically, he deteriorated within weeks. He insisted he saw Hernandez waving him forward. He described the cruiser in detail. Mud splatter, antenna bend. Even the department sticker on rear panel. There was no cruiser west of the river. Victor requested transfer in June. It was approved. 2 months later, we learned he resigned. He did not give reason. After the flood incident, the entity's behavior shifted again. It began using partial human speech embedded inside siren frequency, almost below audible threshold. Not full sentences. Names. Short directives. Audiotex analyzed one recording and isolated my daughter's name within the waveform. They claimed it was auditory pareidolia, pattern recognition error. But I heard it clearly that night in July. We were positioned near a caliche pit frequently used by smugglers. Erica and I. Clear sky. No wind. A distant siren fragment pulsed once. Then in the gap between wail and silence, a child's voice said, "Papa." I stepped out of the vehicle before realizing I had unlatched the door. Erica grabbed my vest. Miguel. The voice repeated from farther out in the brush. Papa. It was Elena's tone, not generic, specific. Rule 3 prohibits pursuing unseen voice even if it uses your name. It does not mention family, because until then it had not used family in field conditions. My heart rate spiked so fast I felt nausea. I knew my daughter was at home. I had checked before shift, but hearing her voice override reason. Erica said, "It is copying from your phone." I had photos, videos, voice memos, all stored. If it could access cell lines before, why not data fragments? The voice shifted slightly. Not perfect. Just enough distortion to remind you it was replication. Papa, I am here. I took one step forward. That is my violation. Compassion override. Emotional attachment. Erica stepped in front of me. If you move off pavement, I cannot reach you in time. We were 30 feet from asphalt frontage road. 30 feet from limitation boundary. The siren fragment pulsed again. Clip double tap. Then the voice elongated. Not childlike anymore, stretching syllables beyond human breath capacity. I froze. That distortion saved me, because it revealed adaptation limits. It can copy tone. It can copy cadence. But emotional modulation degrades over duration. It cannot sustain organic breath patterns for long. We retreated to pavement, held 30 seconds. The sound stopped at the edge of dirt. That was the moment I understood the boundary was not just physical, it was conceptual. Asphalt represents formal jurisdiction, documented infrastructure, human claim. It resists replication, but neighborhoods expand. Construction pushes pavement deeper into brush each year. The boundary shrinks. In August, administration attempted technological countermeasure. They installed randomized siren modulation in 2 test vehicles. Slight unpredictable frequency shifts, human ear barely notices, designed to prevent precise replication. For 3 nights, mimic incidents ceased in test zone. On 4th night, the entity reproduced the randomized pattern exactly, including microshifts. It adapts within 3 exposures. That is our current assessment. Erica began keeping a personal notebook of every fragment event. Time. Location. Weather. Emotional context. She believed emotional state influenced trigger probability. She said, "It responds strongest when someone is conflicted." I asked, "You mean when we hesitate?" She nodded. It is not after vehicles. It is after decisions. September brought administrative pressure. Headquarters questioned budget for additional audio equipment. They requested quantifiable threat assessment. You cannot quantify mimicry without sounding unstable. Delgado was reassigned. Replacement supervisor, acting chief Martin Keller, arrived from San Antonio. Policy-oriented. Skeptical. During briefing he said, "We are law enforcement, not ghost hunters." No one laughed. He ordered strict adherence to written policy only. No unofficial field rules. Siren usage per national standards. Visual confirmation encouraged, but not mandatory if officers' safety at risk. That directive erased containment framework. Within 10 days, incidents increased by 40%. Keller dismissed correlation. He said increased reporting bias. Then October returned. Anniversary month. October 3rd marked 2 years since Carlos's death. We do not speak about anniversaries in field, but the entity seems aware of them. Patterns cluster around significant dates. That night Keller insisted on ride-along to observe operational reality. He rode with me. Erica was in separate unit. Around midnight, a legitimate pursuit initiated south of us. Smuggling vehicle fleeing checkpoint. Sirens active. Confirmed. Keller watched calmly. After 2 minutes, second siren overlapped. Identical. Slight delay. Keller frowned. "Is that echo?" I said no. The overlapping siren split left, while primary pursuit moved right. divergent directions. Keller said, "Follow the second. Could be accomplice." I replied, "Negative. No visual." He said, "That is an order. Duty conflict. Obey supervisor or follow containment rule." I slowed instead of accelerating. That was insubordination by inches. Erica transmitted from north, second pattern heading toward gravel pit. No lights visible. Keller reached for radio. "All units engage." Before he could finish, the siren fragment shifted into his own voice. Calm, authoritative. "Miguel, proceed west." "I authorize." Keller's hand froze midair. He heard himself. The sound repeated with slight tonal drift. "Proceed west." Keller whispered. I did not say that. We both sat there listening to his voice projected from darkness. Then, layered beneath it, came three other voices. Herrera, Carlos, Victor, each repeating fragments of final transmissions. Not full sentences. Just beginnings. It was escalation. Not just mimicry of living, of dead. Keller's composure fractured. He said, "Drive." I did not. I shifted into park, turned off engine, rolled down window to prove no internal malfunction. The voices continued for 12 seconds, then cut at asphalt boundary. Keller said nothing for rest of shift. Next morning he reinstated field rules verbally. No written record. We thought that acknowledgement might change trajectory. It did not, because now it understood hierarchical conflict. It had tested supervisor authority. It had used his own command voice against him. And it succeeded in planting doubt. The erosion is no longer just field level. It is structural. When command hesitates, containment weakens. When policy contradicts experience, response delays widen. The entity does not need to cross pavement if it can convince us to leave it. And recently, the siren fragments have begun occurring without any prior legitimate activation that shift. Which means one of two things. Either it found an external source to replicate from beyond our logged range, or it no longer requires us to start the pattern. By November of 2021, we stopped calling them mimic events over open radio. Language shapes response. If you label something as imitation, you imply source dependency. If you label it as anomaly, you imply uncertainty. So we used neutral phrasing. Unverified secondary tone. That was the official term. It sounded technical. Contained. It was not. The first unverified secondary tone that occurred without prior activation happened on November 9th at 02:43 hours. Clear night. Temperature dropping into the low 50s. I remember because the air felt sharper than usual. Sound carried clean. I was staged alone near an abandoned pump station west of the river bend. Erica was 6 miles north. Keller had ended ride-alongs. He preferred reports over exposure. No units had activated sirens that shift. 0 emergency usage. Logged. At 02:43, my vehicle's external microphone registered a full pursuit cycle beginning from the east. Not fragment. Not partial. Full wail into yelp into wail. Duration 18 seconds. I did not move. I did not key the radio immediately. I listened. The tone was perfect. Not degraded. Not distorted. Rule 1 requires dispatch confirmation. I transmitted. Dispatch confirm any emergency activation sector west. Negative. Dispatch replied. No units activated. The siren repeated. This time closer. Perhaps 300 yards. Still no lights visible through brush. I shifted into reverse slowly and backed onto the paved frontage road. The sound followed until the exact point where dirt met asphalt. Then it cut mid-cycle. Not faded. Cut. I held 30 seconds. Nothing resumed. That should have reinforced the limitation. It did not. Because there had been no prior legitimate activation. It generated pattern from memory. Later that week, Erica and I met off duty at a diner near McPherson Road. We never discuss details inside our homes anymore. We keep contamination outside. She slid her notebook across the table. Pages filled with timestamps, emotional notes, weather patterns. I cross-referenced with anniversary dates, she said. Not just ours. Regional incidents. Border Patrol fatalities nationwide. I looked at her. You think it is patterning around loss? She nodded. Or feeding on attention tied to loss. If that is true, every memorial, every internal email honoring fallen agents, every radio tribute on anniversary amplifies memory frequency. We sustain the pattern by remembering it. That thought sat between us like a third person. December brought cold fronts. Fog heavy along the river. Sound distortion increases in fog. That is documented, which is why December events are harder to separate from natural acoustic behavior. December 3rd, exactly 2 years after Herrera's death, we were ordered to conduct joint patrol with county deputies as visible deterrents. Increased presence. Increased activation readiness. Joint patrol complicates containment because not all agencies follow same informal rules. We briefed deputies about visual confirmation protocol. They listened politely. But their mandate is different. Rapid response. Immediate engagement. Around 1 a.m, Deputy Hernandez activated siren briefly to clear a ranch gate. Confirmed. Legitimate. 7 minutes later, from north of our position, a second siren began. Same cadence. Same duration. But we had no unit north. Only open brush and a dry arroyo. Hernandez said over channel, I hear it again. Erica answered, hold position. He hesitated. You could hear breathing in his mic. Then he said, it sounds like it is stuck. The siren did not move. It looped in place. Over and over. Exact 15-second cycle. No variation. Mechanical repetition beyond human control. That was new. Previously it altered patterns slightly each replay. Now it was static, persistent, like a beacon. Keller came over radio from station. Investigate source. Erica responded immediately. Negative. We do not pursue stationary, unverified tone. Keller's voice sharpened. That is not written policy. Silence followed. The siren continued. 15-second cycle. No movement. Hernandez said quietly, if someone is injured out there. There it was again. Compassion pressure. I keyed in. All units fall back to pavement. Establish perimeter. Keller did not countermand. He remained silent. That silence was consent by absence. We repositioned to asphalt. The siren loop continued for exactly 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Then it stopped. Not gradually. Not fading into fog. Stopped. We waited additional 2 minutes. No further activity. At daylight, we conducted daylight sweep of the arroyo with full visibility. No tire tracks. No debris. No speaker device. No human presence. The ground was undisturbed except for animal prints. After that incident, Erica added a new observation to her notebook. It is experimenting with static lure. January of 2022 began with internal audit. Headquarters requested documentation of acoustic anomalies after Keller quietly escalated concerns. That was progress. Slow. Reluctant. But real. A technical team from Washington arrived with equipment capable of mapping sound origin through triangulation. Advanced arrays mounted to 3 units. For 3 weeks, nothing occurred. That was the second false stabilization. We began to feel almost foolish, like we had overinterpreted grief and coincidence. Victor had resigned. Keller had reduced ride-alongs. Media attention shifted elsewhere. Life normalized. Then on January 27th at 03:12 hours, all 3 triangulation units simultaneously registered a siren fragment. Clipped double tap. Duration 1.8 seconds. The software attempted to map origin. The result displayed 3 origin points equidistant from each vehicle. A geometric impossibility. Sound cannot originate from 3 distinct coordinates simultaneously and remain coherent. The technicians argued about calibration error. Then the fragment replayed. This time followed by a voice layered beneath it. Not mine, not Erica's, not anyone currently active. It was Herrera, his last recorded words before static. Then who is that? Clear. Clean. Not distorted. One of the technicians removed his headset slowly. He said, "Where did you get that recording?" We did not answer. Because we did not provide the source. That night, the technicians requested early departure. They cited equipment malfunction and insufficient data. They left next morning. After they left, events intensified. It began targeting vehicles parked at residences of agents, rather than field locations. Short fragments. 3-second bursts from undeveloped lots adjacent to housing developments, always stopping at edge of pavement. Neighbors began reporting phantom sirens. Complaints filed with City. City contacted sector leadership. Leadership instructed us to minimize activation. Containment requires acknowledgement. Civilian denial complicates it. In February, Sophia confronted me directly. She said, "Elena hears it again at night." I asked when. "After you leave for shift," she replied. From behind the fence, I checked our security cameras. Audio picked up faint siren fragment at 01:14 hours. Duration 3 seconds. Origin beyond fence line, an empty lot awaiting construction. I stood in backyard that night before shift. Dirt under my boots. Fence behind me. Pavement driveway ahead. I listened. At 01:10, clipped double tap. From the dark, lot. I did not step forward. I stepped backward onto driveway concrete. The sound stopped instantly. Sophia watched from doorway. She saw nothing. She heard nothing that time. Only I did. That selective projection unsettled me. Because if it can isolate target perception, then it can manipulate response without witnesses. In March, exactly 3 years since Herrera, the entity escalated to sustained human speech without siren overlay. We were responding to sensor activation near an irrigation canal. No sirens used that shift. Clear night. Erica and I in separate units but within visual range. From the canal embankment came a male voice calling, "Help me." Plain. Direct. No siren. No distortion. We both froze. Erica transmitted, "That is new." The voice repeated, "Help me. I fell." It sounded injured. Desperate. Protocol requires response to potential civilian distress. That is not optional. But Rule 3 extends beyond siren now. Never pursue unseen voice using familiarity triggers. The voice did not use names. It used generic plea. That complicates rule application. I exited vehicle but remained on pavement. "Identify yourself," I called. The voice answered, "I am at the bottom. I cannot move." Erica said quietly over radio, "Do not leave hard surface." I responded aloud, "Move toward road." The voice replied, "I cannot." It was patient. Not frantic. Just steady repetition. We requested air support with Spotlight. Helicopter arrived within 12 minutes. During those 12 minutes, the voice continued. Same tone. No variation in breathing. No coughing. No shifting. When helicopter Spotlight swept canal embankment, there was no one there. The voice stopped immediately upon illumination. That confirmed 2 new parameters. 1. It can operate without siren precursor now. 2. It avoids aerial exposure. The limitation remains asphalt boundary, and possibly sustained overhead light. After that event, I added my own informal rule. Rule 4. No ground descent toward unseen voice without visual confirmation from above. This rule is incomplete. It assumes we will always have air support available. We will not. The erosion is spreading beyond field units. Dispatchers report hearing faint siren fragments through headsets when no channel is active. Keller admitted hearing his own voice at home once in his garage. The entity is no longer confined to brush. It is pressing against institutional walls. I still believe it cannot cross paved federal roads physically. But sound crosses, memory crosses, grief crosses. and we carry those everywhere. April of 2022 is when the pressure stopped feeling localized. Until then, events clustered near the river or undeveloped land adjacent to asphalt. Containment had shape. Boundaries felt measurable. That month, the first confirmed incident occurred entirely within city limits, surrounded by pavement on all sides. It began as administrative routine. Keller scheduled a sector-wide training day at the main Laredo station. All units rotated through defensive driving refreshers and updated radio protocol briefings. Sirens were tested in sequence in the motor pool, one at a time. Controlled environment. I remember standing beside Unit 23 while maintenance ran a calibration cycle. Full whale. Yelp. Return to whale. Duration 30 seconds. Logged and cut. No anomalies during testing. Clean audio. No overlap. That night I was off shift, home by 8. Elena asleep by 9. Sophia grading papers at the kitchen table. Routine. At 10:32, every vehicle in the station motor pool activated its siren simultaneously. I did not hear it in person. I heard it through my phone when Erica called me. She did not say hello. She just held the line open. Through the speaker I heard layered sirens. Dozens, overlapping, but synchronized into a single unified pattern. Not chaotic, structured. All rising and falling in identical cadence as if linked. "Are they testing again?" I asked. "No one is at the yard," she said. "Engines are off, lights are off, sirens are active." I sat up from the couch slowly. "How long?" 40 seconds so far. In the background I could hear agents shouting. Doors slamming. Then over Erica's shoulder mic, Keller's voice carried across the yard. "Disconnect battery mains." The sirens did not falter. They continued for exactly 1 minute and 12 seconds. Then stopped together. Maintenance later confirmed no electrical activation recorded. No battery drain. No ignition log. It was as if the sound bypassed hardware entirely. That was systemic escalation. It no longer required field isolation. It could manifest at the institutional center. The following morning, Keller assembled us in briefing room. His face looked older than his file photo. He said, "Effective immediately. No siren calibration outside essential safety testing. No demonstration cycles. No unnecessary activation inside yard." An agent asked, "Is this related?" Keller paused. Then he said, "Yes." That was the first time leadership acknowledged connection openly. Not in report, not in memo. Out loud. The next high-impact event involved family. May 14th. Elena's 7th birthday. We hosted a small gathering in our backyard. Close friends. 2 fellow agents and their families. Children playing near fence line. Pavement patio beneath our feet. Dirt lot beyond the wooden fence still undeveloped. I had not heard a fragment near the house in weeks. I allowed myself to relax slightly. That was mistake. At approximately 7:15 in the evening, as the sun dropped and shadows lengthened, a faint siren fragment sounded from beyond the fence. One clipped double tap. Conversation paused. Several adults looked around. Not just me. They heard it. One of the other agents, Daniel Ortiz, frowned. "You hear that?" I nodded. "Yes." Before I could respond further, a child's voice called from the lot. "Help." All children in our yard froze. They recognized tone, not specific child, just familiar urgency. Sophia stepped toward the fence instinctively. "Is someone out there?" Rule 4. No ground descent toward unseen voice without visual confirmation from above. But this was residential. No helicopter on standby. Daniel said, "I will check." I grabbed his arm. "No." The voice came again. "Please." Elena looked at me. "Papa." Her eyes were wide. Confused, not yet afraid. This is where emotional devastation embeds. Not in the sound, in the faces of those you protect. I said calmly, "Everyone inside." Now. Adults moved children toward the house. Daniel resisted. "Miguel, if someone is hurt." I lowered my voice. "It is not someone." He stared at me. He had heard rumors. Not experienced full event. Compassion was stronger than caution. The voice shifted slightly, became Sophia's, Miguel. She was standing beside me when it spoke. The sound came from beyond fence. Her exact inflection. Sophia's hand tightened on mine. She whispered, "That is me." The siren fragment followed. Then Keller's voice. "Proceed west," layered over Sophia's. Over a child's. Over siren. Daniel stepped toward the gate latch. I physically blocked him. That is violation of social trust. Of hospitality. But necessary. "Do not open that," I said. He met my eyes. "If someone dies because we stood here..." "There is no one," I replied. The voice from beyond fence began listing names. Mine, Sophia's, Daniel's wife, his son. Slowly, methodically. Then it said, "Open." No siren now, just command. I felt something shift in me. Not panic, not rage. Something like surrender. Because if it can replicate voices of everyone present, then containment is illusion. Sophia spoke first. "We go inside." She led children through sliding door. Daniel hesitated 2 seconds longer. Then followed. I remained at patio edge. Feet on concrete. Watching fence line. The voice said my daughter's name once more. Softly. Then silence. No further sound that evening. Daniel confronted me later by text. He wrote, "You need to tell me what you think is happening." I did not respond fully. I said only, "If you hear siren without seeing lights, do not move toward it." 2 weeks later, Daniel violated that. Late May. He was on solo patrol near the same undeveloped lot behind our subdivision. Off duty but monitoring scanner. He heard what he believed was a vehicle collision beyond fence line. Siren fragment followed by metallic crunch sound. He exited his personal truck and stepped into dirt lot without notifying dispatch. Compassion. Duty even off clock. Security camera from adjacent home shows him walking 15 feet into lot, then stopping abruptly. Head tilted as if listening. Audio from that camera captured Daniel's own voice calling. "I am over here." He answered. "Where?" Then, nothing. He stepped backwards suddenly and returned to pavement. He later told me he heard his son crying from deeper in lot. His son was asleep inside their home. Daniel requested psychological evaluation the following week. He is currently on administrative leave. After the birthday incident and Daniel's near violation, I realized containment at personal residences is failing. Pavement boundary holds physical manifestation. But auditory projection penetrates. June introduced power grid anomalies. Laredo experienced 2 brief rolling outages during heat wave. Both outages coincided with reports of unverified secondary tones in West Sector. Electric utility reported no equipment fault, just sudden load spike and correction. During first outage, multiple residents reported hearing distant sirens in complete darkness. No visible lights. Darkness amplifies auditory perception. It reduces cross-checking by sight. The entity understands sensory hierarchy. Keller convened meeting with City Emergency Management. I attended. Representatives from Fire Department described hearing phantom tones during nighttime drills months earlier. They dismissed them as interference. It is not limited to Border Patrol frequency. It replicates pattern, not just specific device. During that meeting, I asked Fire Chief, "Have you noticed boundary behavior near pavement?" He looked at me cautiously. "What do you mean?" I said, "Do the tones stop at certain surfaces?" He paused. Then admitted, "We had one event near River Park. Sound cut off at boat ramp. Concrete. That aligns with asphalt limitation. Hard-poured infrastructure tied to federal or municipal grid. Something about that interrupts sustained manifestation, which means expansion of city may reduce physical reach, but it also increases human population density near brush edges. More targets. More emotional triggers. July marked the most personal breach yet. Elena developed habit of recording short videos on my phone. Silly things. Her voice saying goodnight, jokes, songs. I review them sometimes during shift to stay grounded. One night at 0207 hours, while parked on Frontage Road, my phone began playing one of her recordings without input. Volume low. Screen dark. I picked it up. The video displayed, timestamp from months prior. Elena smiling. Saying, "Good night, Papa." Halfway through playback, her face in the video stilled. Eyes fixed forward. Then her mouth moved differently. Audio shifted. "Come west." That phrase. Same as Keller's voice used before. The siren fragment followed from outside vehicle. Not from phone, from brush. I powered phone off immediately. Threw it onto passenger seat. Heart rate elevated but controlled. "Dispatch confirm any activation," I said. Negative. The siren fragment repeated. Then Elena's altered voice again from phone speaker, though device remained powered down. "Papa, I am here." I exited vehicle and placed phone on asphalt at my feet. Sound ceased instantly. The phone later showed no record of that altered playback. No file corruption. No anomaly. It accessed stored media. Altered it in real time. Or overlaid audio. I cannot explain mechanism. Only effect. After that, I removed all personal media from device. Stored offline. That did not prevent future projections. Because replication is not dependent on current storage. It is dependent on prior exposure. It is heard enough. August brought drought conditions. River low. Brush brittle. Increased foot traffic. Increased legitimate siren usage due to vehicle accidents in dust storms. The more we activate legitimately, the more raw material it acquires. Erica proposed radical solution. No sirens for 30 days, she said. Total blackout, unless life threat verified by visual. Keller hesitated. That violates response policy. She replied, "We are feeding it patterns." He did not approve full blackout. He approved reduction. Within 2 weeks, incidents reduced slightly, but not to zero, because it now stores patterns long term. It no longer requires immediate precursor. The erosion continues. I feel it in my reactions. I no longer trust any sound beyond sight. I flinch when ambulances pass on highway even in daylight. I monitor my daughter's voice for subtle drift. I question every directive over radio until I see lips move. This is not paranoia. It is adaptation. But adaptation carries cost. I am more distant at home. More silent at work. Agents look to me for interpretation. I give them rules. But rules are thinning. Because the entity is no longer only at the boundary. It is inside the pattern of our response itself. And I am starting to suspect the asphalt limitation is not a physical barrier. It is a delay. September of 2022 began with an absence. For 9 consecutive nights there were no unverified secondary tones reported anywhere in sector. Not near the river. Not near residential edges. Not at the motor pool. 9 nights is long enough for the body to begin unclenching. Long enough for doubt to shift direction. Instead of doubting the silence, you begin doubting the threat. Erica said on the 4th night, "It is withdrawing." I answered, "Or repositioning." On the 7th night, Keller circulated an internal email suggesting the acoustic anomalies may have been environmentally amplified interference compounded by stress response following prior fatalities. That language spreads like permission. Agents stopped logging minor fragments. Dispatch stopped flagging faint overlaps. That is how systemic failure begins. Not with collapse. With normalization. On the 10th night, the silence broke. Not with a siren. With a recall order. At 23:40 hours, every agent assigned to West Perimeter received a group text from what appeared to be Sector Command. It read, "All units return to station immediately. Stand down. Do not respond to further calls until briefing at 0100." The number was correct. The formatting was correct. The signature block included Keller's name and badge number. Erica called me within seconds. "Did you get that?" "Yes." "Dispatch confirms nothing sent," which means it spoofed official contact list. Rule 3 addresses voice over radio. It does not address written command through verified numbers. That gap existed because no one imagined it necessary. I remained staged on Frontage Road. 2 other units reported heading back toward station before dispatch intercepted and ordered them to hold position. They turned around. The recall text repeated 3 times over the next 15 minutes, each identical. Then, from the brush west of my position, a full pursuit siren began. Not fragment, full cycle, moving fast. Parallel to pavement but off it. If even one unit had obeyed the recall and cleared zone, the remaining coverage would have thinned enough for it to isolate. That was the objective, not just lure. Redistribution. Erica said quietly over channel. It tried administrative reroute. Yes, it is no longer content to bait individuals. It wants sector-level repositioning. The siren kept pace with my vehicle as I drove slowly along asphalt, never crossing boundary. Always exactly 20 to 30 feet west of pavement edge. At one point I slowed to near stop. The siren slowed. When I accelerated, it accelerated. Perfect tracking. It is mapping reaction speed. After 4 minutes it cut abruptly. The next escalation came through infrastructure. Mid-October. City Council approved expansion of residential development west of our subdivision. Construction crews began grading the undeveloped lot behind our fence. Dirt leveled. Utility lines laid. Asphalt scheduled within weeks. I watched heavy machinery push earth that had been untouched for years. I should have felt relief. Hard surface extends boundary. Pavement interrupts manifestation. Instead, I felt apprehension. Because if asphalt is only delay, extending it may provoke adaptation. 2 nights after grading began, the siren fragment returned at the edge of construction site. But it did not stop at the graded line. It projected farther inward than before. Not crossing concrete yet, but closer. Erica and I documented increased range of projection when soil is disturbed, possibly because disruption alters acoustic reflection or whatever medium it uses. The second high-impact event of this period involved a lost child report near River Park. Saturday afternoon. Family reported 8-year-old boy missing near walking trail. Immediate search initiated. Multiple agencies involved. Sirens used openly due to urgency. Confirmed and visible. I was assigned to perimeter containment along paved path that runs parallel to water. Families lined trail. Panic thick in air. About 30 minutes into search, a second siren layered over official vehicles. Subtle at first. Then, matching. A woman near me grabbed my arm. There is another one behind the trees. I heard it too. From inside brush bordering the path. Then a child's voice called from that brush, "Mom." Several civilians reacted at once. 2 men moved toward sound. I intercepted them. "Stay on pavement." One man shouted, "That is him." I said firmly, "If you do not see him, do not leave path." The voice repeated, "Mom." But tone was wrong. Breathless without breath. Over radio dispatch confirmed boy located half-mile south unharmed. He had wandered toward concession stand. The civilians around me did not hear that update immediately. The brush voice persisted another 10 seconds, then ceased. That was the first time it attempted civilian lure during active public emergency. It is expanding target pool, not just agents, anyone conditioned to respond to distress. Later that evening news coverage mentioned false siren reports during search. Social media speculated pranksters. Keller issued quiet directive prohibiting public acknowledgement of acoustic anomalies. "We cannot induce panic," he said. Silence protects institutions. It also protects the entity. November brought cooler nights again. Fog returned. On November 3rd, anniversary of Herrera's accident, I volunteered for solo patrol west of the original wash where his vehicle overturned. I needed to observe without distraction. I parked on pavement overlooking the dry channel. Engine off. Lights off. Recorder running. At 02:58, a siren began from the wash itself. Not moving. Not fragment. Full cycle. Then Herrera's voice layered over it. Not his final words. A different memory. From years earlier during training. He had once joked, "If you hear me call from the dark, ignore me." That exact sentence repeated from the wash. I never told anyone about that training exchange. It was not recorded. It was not logged. Only he and I heard it that day. The voice said again, "Ignore me," then shifted tone slightly, or follow. The siren cut. Silence filled wash. I remained on asphalt, hands steady on wheel. I spoke aloud though no one was present. "You cannot cross." Wind moved lightly through brush. No answer. I drove home at dawn without incident. But that exchange confirmed deeper access. It is not only pulling from recorded media or radio logs. It is accessing memory tied to shared experience, which means it is not external in simple sense. It interfaces with perception. It may not need physical proximity at all. December delivered the most devastating loss so far. Agent Erica Salazar. Not dead. Not physically. But lost to reassignment under psychological review. The incident occurred December 15th during joint operation with Homeland Security investigations targeting a stash house west of town. Urban environment. Mixed pavement and dirt alleyways. Sirens authorized due to warrant execution. Erica was perimeter east side on asphalt. I was south, approach, 2C units north. Initial breach went smooth. Suspects detained. No sirens beyond initial approach. Then from rear alley west of house, a second siren initiated. Identical to Erica's vehicle model. She reported over radio. "That is mine." But her dashboard showed no activation. The siren moved slowly down alley parallel to her position. There were no vehicles there. Just dumpsters and chain link fence. Then over open channel came my voice. Clear. "Erica, I am hit." West side, I had said nothing. I was 50 yards south. She broke protocol. She stepped off asphalt into alley to reach me. Compassion. Partner attachment. I saw her move on body cam feed. I shouted, "I am not west." She stopped mid-alley. The siren behind her escalated into full pursuit pattern. My voice repeated, "Hurry." She hesitated. That hesitation saved her life. Because she retreated to pavement instead of advancing deeper. The siren stopped instantly. Afterward, she could not stop shaking. She said, "I knew it was not you, but I wanted it to be." That sentence ended her field assignment. Psychological services deemed her compromised by emotional entanglement with anomaly. She transferred to administrative desk duty in January. Voluntary on paper. Mandatory in reality. I lost my most disciplined partner not to death, but to erosion. Since her transfer, incidents feel more aggressive, less testing, more insistent. And the asphalt boundary, once sharp, now feels porous, not physically breached yet. But duration of projection at edge increases each week. Instead of cutting immediately at pavement, fragments now persist 1 or 2 seconds longer before ceasing. That may seem minor. It is not. It indicates pressure against limitation. I am the only remaining agent in our zone who has experienced every escalation phase. Herrera. Carlos. Victor. Daniel. Erica. I do not feel chosen. I feel retained. And retention implies future use. January of 2023 began without Erica beside me. Her desk assignment placed her inside the station under fluorescent lights, reviewing reports about the very things she used to confront in the dark. We spoke less. Not by choice, by gravity. Every conversation circled back to the same question: how long until the delay ends? I was reassigned to partner with Agent Ruben Castillo. 9 years in service. Methodical. Married. 2 boys under 10. He had heard the stories, but had not experienced direct mimicry beyond distant fragments. On our first shift together, he said, "I follow written policy unless you tell me otherwise." I replied, "Written policy will get you killed out here." He studied me for a moment, then nodded once. "Then you tell me the unwritten ones." I explained asphalt boundary. 30-second hold. No pursuit without visual confirmation. No response to voice using personal identifiers. No administrative command acted upon without dispatch verification. He listened without interruption. That alone made him different from Victor. The first week with Reuben was quiet. Too quiet. Fog rolled in heavy off the river some nights, but no siren fragments pierced it. No voices from brush. No text recalls. Keller used that quiet to reopen debate about scaling back informal restrictions. "We cannot operate indefinitely under anomaly assumption," he said during briefing. "Operational readiness is suffering." Operational readiness. That phrase is clean. It hides the cost of constant vigilance. February 4th at 0120 hours, Reuben and I were staged near a new stretch of asphalt laid behind our subdivision. Construction complete. Pavement extended 50 yards into what used to be dirt lot. Fresh black surface. Unmarked. I felt something that night before it happened. Not sound. Pressure. Like static in the air. Reuben was reviewing thermal feed when the siren began. Not from brush. Not from old dirt line. From beneath the new asphalt, it sounded muffled at first, as if filtered through earth. Then clearer. Full pursuit cycle rising through pavement at our feet. Reuben's eyes widened. "That is under us." Yes. It was not west of the boundary. It was below it. The asphalt limitation was never a wall. It was a lid. The siren reverberated through the chassis of our vehicle. Vibrations transmitted up through floorboard. It was not directional. It was vertical. I shifted into drive and moved 10 feet forward. The sound followed beneath. Then my own voice emerged from beneath the asphalt. Calm. "Reuben, step out." Reuben looked at me. I had not spoken. The voice repeated, "Step out." Reuben's hand moved toward door latch. Reflex. Authority recognition. I placed my hand over his. "Do not." The siren intensified. Not louder. Closer. As if just inches below tire. For 30 seconds we remained stationary. I watched the timer on dashboard. When it reached 30, the sound cut instantly. We exited the vehicle cautiously and examined the pavement. No cracks, no vibration, nothing visible. Reuben said quietly, "It is under the grid now." That night marked structural breach of our assumption. Hard surface does not prevent manifestation. It delays lateral projection. It does not prevent vertical intrusion. We reported the incident fully. Keller listened without interrupting. His face did not change. He said, "Increase patrol spacing. Reduce solo staging. Spacing reduces isolation. It also increases response time. Every containment measure carries trade-off." Mid-February, the entity shifted tactics again. It began exploiting weather alerts. Laredo experienced a severe wind advisory with dust reducing visibility on open roads. Multiple legitimate accidents. Sirens active across sector for hours. Pattern saturation. Around 0300. After a series of real emergency responses. Dispatch reported hearing secondary tones overlapping legitimate calls. But these secondary tones were out of sync by half-second, not echo. Offset. Reuben and I were assisting a stranded motorist on pavement when we heard the offset siren approaching from west. Then dispatch transmitted. "All units be advised, Sector Command ordering evacuation of west perimeter due to hazardous chemical spill." I froze. That was new. Chemical spill. That triggers immediate relocation protocol. Reuben asked, "Is that real?" Dispatch replied seconds later, negative. No chemical incident logged. The evacuation order had used correct tone. Correct cadence. Correct dispatch voice. If even half units had complied before verification, West Perimeter would have emptied during high traffic night. Civilian exposure risk high. It is no longer content with individual lures. It is testing mass displacement. March 3rd arrived again. 4 years since Herrera. I did not volunteer for wash patrol this time. I did not need anniversary to trigger it. At 02:45 hours, every portable radio in sector emitted a 3-second clipped double tap simultaneously. Not vehicle sirens. Handheld radios. No button pressed. No transmission logged. Then silence. The following morning, internal systems showed no unauthorized transmission. No breach. Ruben approached me in locker room afterward. He said, "I dreamed it before it happened." I looked at him. He continued, "Last night before shift, I dreamed all radios chirped at once. I woke up thinking it was nothing. The entity may not just replicate memory. It may anticipate response pathways by seeding expectation. If Ruben dreamed it, and then it occurred, which was first? April delivered the most severe high-impact set piece to date. A multi-vehicle collision occurred on Interstate 35 northbound. Legitimate, major. Multiple injuries. Sirens from city police. Fire. Saturating corridor. We were assigned traffic diversion on frontage road. High-stress environment. Flashing lights everywhere. Noise constant. In that saturation, a second layer of sirens emerged. Perfectly synchronized, but slightly lower frequency. Almost harmonic. If you did not focus, you would not separate them. Then over the cacophony came Alina's voice through my vehicle speaker. Not phone. Not radio. Through the public address system integrated in Dash. "Papa, they are hurt." Ruben heard it too, his face drained of color. "I did not connect PA," he said. The voice continued, "You have to come." In front of us, real injured civilians were being loaded into ambulances. Real blood, real urgency. The entity chose the moment of maximum legitimate compassion load. It layered personal plea over actual tragedy. If I left my traffic control post to follow phantom direction, chaos would increase. Real people would suffer. That is the conflict it seeks now. Not lure into isolation, but pull away from actual duty in crowded scene. I keyed radio calmly. Dispatch confirmed no broadcast through my unit PA. Confirmed, dispatch replied. The voice shifted tone slightly, not quite Elena anymore. Elongated vowels. "They need you." Ruben whispered, "It wants you off post." "Yes. Because I am consistent variable. Remove me. Introduce inexperienced response." I stayed. I did not move. I focused on redirecting vehicles. The voice persisted for 17 seconds. Then, cut abruptly. Later that night, after scene cleared, Ruben said, "It knows you will not chase into dark anymore. So it tries to pull you from light." That is accurate. May introduce digital anomaly beyond texts. Body cam footage from unrelated arrest captured faint siren fragment in background audio where no siren was present on scene. Timestamp shows 2 in the afternoon. Broad daylight. No activation anywhere near. Playback repeatedly confirmed fragment embedded. It is bleeding into recorded evidence independent of event context. Erica called me from station one evening in June. Her voice sounded thinner. She said, "I reviewed Herrera's original dashcam again. I asked why. There is something we missed," she replied. At the very end, before static, there is a third voice layered under the second siren. I close my eyes. What does it say? It says your name. Herrera's accident occurred before my daughter was born. Before several escalations. It said my name then. Retention. The pattern of 4 years suggests incremental proximity. First mimicry of siren. Then names, then family, then administrative command, then infrastructure, then subterranean manifestation, then digital embedding. Each phase expands domain of influence. The limitation remains partial. It cannot sustain manifestation on paved federal road beyond brief seconds. It cannot maintain human breath modulation for extended speech. It cannot tolerate sustained overhead spotlight. But those are constraints within growing perimeter. Ruben has begun keeping distance from me unconsciously. Not avoidance, just measured spacing. He does not stage directly beside my vehicle anymore. He positions at angle. That is instinct. He senses focal gravity. I do not blame him. Sophia asked me last week, "When does this end?" I did not answer. Because end implies conclusion. This is progression. And I am starting to believe the final phase is not physical breach of asphalt. It is convincing us the boundary never mattered. July of 2023 brought heat that pressed against the city like a hand. Nights no longer cooled properly. Asphalt retained warmth past midnight. Air above it shimmered even in darkness. The boundary felt thinner in that heat. Not visibly, sensibly, Reuben said one night. "You ever notice it sounds clearer in summer?" "Yes," I replied. "Less distortion. Heat stabilizes air density near ground. Sound travels differently. We are learning physics while something else learns us." The first event of July was small on paper. No injuries. No reports filed publicly. But it altered trajectory. At 0210 hours, dispatch initiated routine welfare check on an elderly rancher who had not answered calls. Reuben and I responded. Location sat half on pavement, half on dirt drive. House built decades ago, before frontage road was paved. Asphalt ended 15 feet from his porch. We approached with headlights only. No siren. No activation. As we exited vehicle, from the dirt driveway behind the house came a single clipped double tap. Reuben stopped mid-step. No activation logged. I nodded. "Hold." Then from the porch, the rancher's voice called weakly, "Over here." We turned. He stood in doorway. Real, visible, behind us. From the dirt drive, the same voice called again. "Over here." Two identical voices. One from porch. One from dark. The man in doorway looked confused. "You hear that?" Yes. He heard it too. Civilian perception now synchronized with ours. Rule 3 does not address duplicate visible presence. It addresses unseen voice. This was seen and unseen simultaneously. I positioned myself with 1 foot on asphalt, 1 foot near dirt line. Reuben remained fully on pavement. The rancher on porch said, "What is wrong with you boys?" The second voice from driveway repeated, "What is wrong with you boys?" But tone slightly flattened. Reuben whispered, "It is splitting." I called to the porch, "Sir, step onto the road." He frowned, but complied slowly. As he crossed from dirt threshold onto asphalt edge, the duplicate voice from driveway stretched unnaturally long, then cut. The rancher reached pavement. He was fine. Just hearing difficulty from ear infection. No distress. The implication lingered long after. It can project duplicate of visible human and sustain until that human crosses boundary. The limitation is not identity replication. It is ground contact context. August escalated beyond individual projection. A sector-wide communications outage occurred on August 12th at 0330 hours. All primary radios lost connection for 11 seconds. Backup channel failed simultaneously. During those 11 seconds, every unit reported hearing a siren fragment through dead radio. No static. Just clear clipped double tap. When communication restored, dispatch was flooded with overlapping transmissions. Confusion. Verification requests. 11 seconds is short, but in active pursuit or medical emergency, 11 seconds is exposure. Keller ordered immediate investigation into cyber breach. Federal team scanned network. No intrusion found. No malware. No unauthorized access. The outage left no trace except absence, and the siren fragment embedded in everyone's memory. Later that week, Reuben admitted something he had not shared. He said, "I hear it when I close my eyes." I looked at him carefully. "Not outside," he continued. "Inside. Like my brain replays it before sleep. That is the next erosion. Internalization. When replication no longer requires external projection." I asked, "Does it use names?" He nodded once. "My oldest, we did not report that." Because psychological evaluation removes field presence. And field presence is where containment still functions, even if barely. September 3rd marked 5 years since Carlos drowned. I did not want to acknowledge the date. I did not volunteer for river patrol. Keller assigned me anyway. Experience matters on anniversaries, he said. Ruben accompanied me. We staged on elevated asphalt turnout overlooking the embankment where flood had cut channel that night. No fog. Clear sky. Moon bright. At 0250, the siren began from within the riverbed. Not above ground. Not lateral. From beneath the dry cracked mud. Then water appeared where there had been none. Just a thin sheen reflecting moonlight. No rain had fallen for weeks. Carlos's voice rose from that shallow sheen. I see the cruiser. The exact words he transmitted before entering water years earlier. Ruben gripped steering wheel. It is replaying. No, it was not replaying. The tone carried urgency not present in recording. It was current. Alive. The voice shifted. Ruben, swing wide. Ruben flinched. He had never been present at Carlos's accident. Yet the entity integrated his name seamlessly into old script. Adaptive editing. The water sheen extended slowly toward asphalt edge. Not crossing yet, just advancing. I said firmly, you cannot. The siren intensified beneath mud. The thin waterline reached within 1 foot of pavement. For 5 full seconds it remained there. Not cutting. Not retreating. Just waiting. That was the longest sustained presence at boundary in 5 years. I counted aloud to 30. At 27, the water receded abruptly. Mud returned dry. Siren cut. Ruben exhaled only then. He said, it held longer. Yes, I replied. Each year it holds longer. October delivered institutional fracture. An internal memo leaked to local media describing unverified acoustic anomalies within Border Patrol operations. Public speculation erupted online. Conspiracy theories. Pranks. Paranormal claims. City residents began calling in phantom siren reports at higher volume. Some genuine. Some fabricated. Noise floor increased. Noise saturation benefits the entity. Harder to isolate real from projection. Keller called emergency closed-door meeting with senior agents including me. He said, we cannot shut down operations because of this. I responded carefully. We are not shutting down. We are adapting. He looked tired. Adaptation has cost us personnel. If this continues, headquarters will remove you from field. Remove me. That word echoed. Because if I am removed, Ruben remains. Others remain. Less experienced. I said quietly, if I am off field, it will escalate faster. He did not argue. November brought the third high-impact set piece. A school bus stalled on a rural 2-lane road west of town during early morning route. Children on board. Engine failure. Driver called dispatch. No siren used. Standard mechanical issue. Ruben and I were nearest. We responded without activation. As we approached on pavement, from the brush parallel to road, a siren began. Full cycle. Matching our vehicle model. Children inside bus began to panic. They recognized siren as emergency cue. Some stood. Some cried. Then from the brush came the bus driver's voice screaming, "Get off the bus!" The real driver stood at front door. Pale. I did not say that. Panic surged inside bus. 2 older students attempted to open emergency exit at rear. That exit would have led them into brush. I ran to bus door and shouted calmly, "Stay seated." The duplicate driver voice continued from brush, "There is fire. No smoke. No heat." Ruben positioned our vehicle sideways to block rear exit path, tires on asphalt. The siren from brush increased intensity. Children screamed. One child unlatched window halfway. I made eye contact and said firmly, "Look at me." The voice from brush shifted. It used my voice now. Evacuate. If even 3 children had run into brush following perceived authority, we would have lost them. I keyed radio for helicopter support. Within 6 minutes, spotlight swept area. As beam touched brushline, siren cut instantly. Voice ceased. No child left bus. No injuries. But the entity had tested group manipulation of minors using authority mimicry. That is escalation beyond targeting trained responders. It is testing civilian obedience reflex. After that incident, school district requested briefing. Keller hesitated but approved limited disclosure. I spoke to transportation supervisors. I did not mention supernatural. I said, if you hear siren without seeing lights, remain in vehicle. It felt inadequate. December approached again. Erica requested meeting with me at station late one evening. She closed office door behind us. She said, I am hearing it during the day now, I asked. External? No, she replied. Internal. In the quiet between phone calls, she looked exhausted. It is not trying to pull me into brush anymore. It is trying to pull me into doubt. That may be final phase, not physical lure. Cognitive erosion. Because if enough of us begin doubting our own perception, command will attribute events to stress disorder. Field rules will be revoked. Siren usage will normalize. Boundary will be ignored. And once boundary is ignored, delay ends. The limitation remains observable. It cannot sustain full manifestation beyond pavement for extended duration. It cannot endure sustained overhead light. It degrades human breath modulation in extended speech. But limitations weaken with exposure and time. 5 years ago, it waited for us to activate. Now, it initiates. It coordinates. It integrates memory across personnel. It penetrates infrastructure and digital systems. It manipulates civilians. It presses against boundary longer each season. I no longer believe I am retained by chance. I think it has been calibrating to me specifically. And calibration suggests an endpoint. January of 2024 began with a directive from headquarters that did not mention anomalies at all. It mentioned efficiency. Sector-wide audit determined that reduced discretionary siren usage over the past 2 years had negatively impacted response visibility and deterrence metrics. The recommendation was simple. Resume full emergency activation protocols when appropriate. No informal limitations. No undocumented holds. Keller read the memo aloud in briefing. His voice did not carry authority anymore. It carried fatigue. He looked at me once. Not long. Just enough to acknowledge what we both understood. If siren usage returns to normal frequency, pattern saturation increases. Exposure increases. Adaptation accelerates. That is inevitability phase. Not because the entity wins. Because the system chooses blindness over burden. Reuben leaned toward me after briefing and whispered, "What do we do?" I answered honestly. "We follow rules. All of them. Even if they are not written." He nodded. But I saw doubt there. Doubt in sustainability. The first week after policy shift, legitimate siren activations increased by nearly 40%. Traffic stops, pursuits, public safety escorts. Officers relieved to operate without hesitation. Relief is dangerous. It loosens vigilance. On January 10th at 0130 hours, Reuben and I were dispatched to assist local police and vehicle pursuit west of town. Legitimate activation. Confirmed. Suspect fleeing at high speed. For years I avoided engaging siren unless absolutely necessary. That night I activated it. Full cycle. Because if I did not, response delay could risk civilian life. The sound filled the air. Real. Ours. 30 seconds into pursuit. A second siren layered perfectly behind us. Not from brush. Not lateral. Directly aligned with our trajectory, as if attached to rear bumper. Reuben glanced at rear view. Nothing there. The second siren matched every modulation of ours in real time. When I toggled from wail to yelp, It toggled simultaneously. No delay, no offset. It is no longer replaying. It is mirroring live. We continued pursuit onto frontage road. Pavement, hard surface. The second siren did not cut at boundary. It remained aligned for full 2 minutes. That was first confirmed sustained manifestation on pavement exceeding prior seconds-long delay. When pursuit terminated safely and suspect detained, our siren cut. The mirrored siren continued alone for 3 seconds. Then silence. Ruben's voice was steady but thin. It stayed. Yes. It stayed. That night marked breach of primary limitation. I did not report it immediately. I verified dashcam audio first. It captured dual pattern clearly. No visual source. Sustained on asphalt. Keller reviewed footage in silence. Then he said quietly, "How long?" 2 minutes, I replied. He closed his eyes briefly. We are out of delay. February escalated quickly. Multiple units reported mirrored sirens during legitimate activations. Not all. Not every time. Intermittent. Enough to create uncertainty in every response. Agents began hesitating again. But this time, hesitation occurs on pavement during real emergencies. That increases risk to civilians. That is strategic shift. It has moved battlefield from brush into roadway. March 3rd arrived once more. 6 years since Herrera. At 0245, every emergency vehicle in Laredo activated sirens simultaneously without input. Police, fire, EMS, border patrol. Across the city, 2 minutes of unified wail. No buttons pressed. No keys turned. Engines off in some cases. The sound rose from vehicles and from somewhere between them. Residents flooded 911 lines. Panic. I was staged on Interstate Shoulder when it began. Vehicles around me lit up without ignition. The air vibrated. Then, layered over the collective siren, came a single voice amplified across all channels. Not through radio. Through the siren frequency itself. My voice. I am over here. The phrase Daniel had heard years earlier. The phrase used in Wash. Now, broadcast citywide. Ruben stared at me. I had not spoken. The voice repeated, "I am over here." And then it said something it had never said before. Cross. Not directed at me alone. Directed at everyone listening. Several officers exited vehicles instinctively, scanning surroundings. Some stepped off pavement into median grass. Others moved toward alleyways. I grabbed Ruben's arm. Stay on asphalt. The 2-minute city-wide activation ended abruptly. All sirens cut together. In aftermath, departments attributed event to software glitch. Firmware update issued next day. No glitch found. But something changed in me during that broadcast. It is no longer isolating individuals. It is conditioning collective reflex. It wants mass boundary crossing. Not for physical consumption. For something else. April confirmed that suspicion. A coordinated emergency drill was scheduled downtown involving multiple agencies. Controlled activation. Known parameters. During drill, mirrored sirens appeared again, this time slightly out of sync. Then gradually falling into sync. Like a learning algorithm refining. Mid-drill, a civilian pedestrian stepped off curb into closed intersection despite officer commands. He later said he heard his deceased brother calling from across street. No one else heard that voice. We are not only targets. The population is becoming responsive to unseen cues. May delivered the final personal loss. Sophia asked for separation. She did not say it was because of sirens. She said I am distant. Hypervigilant. Not present. She said Elena flinches when ambulances pass and watches me instead of traffic. She said our house feels like staging area, not home. She is not wrong. I tried to explain without explaining. She listened. Then she said quietly, "You cannot protect us from something that lives in you now." That sentence cut deeper than any siren. She moved with Elena to her sister's home east of city, where development is dense and pavement older. I do not know if that matters anymore. June arrived. Reuben requested transfer. Not immediately. He gave 2 months' notice. He said he needs to protect his boys. I did not argue. I signed his paperwork. I am now frequently staged alone again. Last week, at 01:15 hours, while parked on fully paved municipal lot with overhead floodlights active, the siren began inside my vehicle cabin without external vibration. No speakers active. No electronics engaged. Just sound in the air between seats. It did not come from outside. It did not reverberate through metal. It manifested in space. Then my voice spoke calmly from that space. Miguel. I did not respond. It said, "You understand now. That is new. Direct address without lure." I said quietly, "You need response." Silence for 3 seconds. Then siren resumed briefly. Then cut. I believe its dependence on response remains core. It cannot initiate without expectation of reaction. Even now, when it manifests without prior activation, it does so in context saturated by our conditioning to react. If sirens become background noise, if we cease responding emotionally to them, its leverage decreases. But that is impossible in practice. Sirens are designed to demand attention, to override thought. That is why this threat is effective. It exploits tools built for urgency, built to save lives. I have begun experimenting personally. On isolated patrols, when legitimate sirens activate nearby, I do not accelerate reflexively. I breathe once. I verify visually before engagement. I consciously separate sound from action. Twice now, mirrored siren failed to appear when I withheld immediate acceleration. That may be coincidence. Or it may indicate reaction latency disrupts synchronization. But institutional policy does not allow universal latency. There are moments when immediate response saves life. And in those moments, delay is unacceptable. So, we are trapped in dual requirement. React fast enough to protect civilians, slow enough to avoid synchronization. That tension is not sustainable across large population. This is my confession, because I no longer believe containment will hold beyond a few more cycles. The asphalt boundary was never salvation. It was rehearsal. It learned from every activation, every anniversary, every funeral, every drill, every panicked civilian who ran toward a sound without sight. It cannot be fully stopped. It cannot be fully explained. But it has one limitation left that I am certain of. It requires acknowledgement of authority. It mirrors badges, titles, chain of command. It uses our voices because we represent structure. It does not speak as random stranger. It speaks as us. If authority fragments, if response becomes decentralized and cautious, its synchronization weakens. That is not practical advice for citywide policy, but it is personal instruction. If you are listening to this and you work in emergency services anywhere near a border, a coastline, a river corridor, understand this. If you hear a siren and you do not see lights, do not move. If you hear your name from darkness, do not answer. If you receive recall orders without verification, hold position. If you believe someone you love is calling from beyond pavement, bring them to the road. Do not go to them. And when sirens sound legitimately, pause for one breath before acting. Even one breath may disrupt alignment. I have given 14 years to this uniform, 6 of those to something that learned from me. Herrera chased, Carlos pursued, Victor believed, Daniel stepped forward, Erica hesitated, Reuben endured, Sophia left. I remain, not because I am immune, because I am calibrated. It has been practicing my voice for years. If one night you hear a siren that sounds exactly like the one outside your window, and then you hear me say, "I am over here," understand that I am not. Stay on pavement. Count to 30, and do not cross.